All right, Merle. I
Hey,
really enjoyed that podcast. Very organic.
yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding. I wasn't expecting it to go to all the places it went to, but
I
how
got so
stimulating. What a great way to start the day for me.
yeah, I totally agree. I got so much to talk about. I just want to put this in your ear because I'll save it for next week or whatever. But Lisa's been like, hey, I want you guys to talk about this. I mean, these meaningful things. Oh, I forgot to mention that Dan the fireman is going to do next week's podcast. I wanted to plug that. I think it's going to be a really good one because he's going to be retiring soon. He's a new grandfather.
Wow.
He just got married, remarried again. And so all these big life-changing things, we're going to discuss all of that. And he's got a kind of a look at retirement from more of a younger person's point of view. What I mean are us Gen X and baby boomers kind of have this real traditional way of viewing retirement. And he's got, I would say, more of the modern day nomadic kind of attitude. You'll have to tune in. It's going to be a really good one. It's going to go by very quickly.
Interesting.
So things that Lisa wanted us to talk about, and again, I just want to put these in your ear for now. So we will talk about maybe the week after next.
Okay.
She wants to talk about career moves versus retiring versus trying to find that third act in your life of doing the dream job that you always wanted, versus mortality, because she is she's worked her way up to this really high-end corporate America gig where she makes great money and bonus and all of that stuff. But on the other hand, our fathers, your father, my father, her father, all died before they reaped any benefits of retirement.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
And,
I think about that all the time.
And so are we over here. With her, she's so, dog on a bone kind of thing. I always want to help nurture her into a more passion type of career at this point. I still wonder if she would turn that into hard work, but we want to talk about that soon.
Yeah, those are great.
There's a lot of weighing there, your big old salary and bonuses, 401k versus what you have to give up in healthcare benefits today. That right there is a major killer,
especially as you're getting into your older years when you really need all that health care. When you're young and you got all this vitality, you're like, who cares about my health care that I got to pay for every. Well, when you get to be our age, I mean,
and you break that hip.
Now, but boy, I tell you, you look at some people that are our age. I'm 55. But I see people that are 55 that are way older than I am.
Oh, yes. So we'll save that. Here's another one, which I think is really good. It would make a podcast like the one we just did that was real organic and all, Okay. Regrets. What will I regret when I'm on my deathbed? How do I find self-forgiveness? How do I make this shift now? And, Lisa asked these things in regards to her overworking. And what will people say about me at my funeral? Those are really good to tear apart and explore.
No kidding. Those are great. Those are great ones. I'm looking forward to that.
And she used the word, remember, I'm sorry, I'm making a note. Remember when I said to you that I'm going to stop using that word metaphysical because I think it sounds, I used to put in our notes, it would be up front section, which career self-improvement, metaphysical, and then current events. And I just stopped labeling them. Well, Lisa said the other day too, she's like, I wish you guys would talk about more metaphysical type stuff. She goes, that's my favorite stuff when you do that. And that's basically what we did in the last podcast. We're talking about quantum computing and AI and the theories on that. We're talking about ancient civilizations. And I mean, it's fun stuff when we have that subject matter in front of us. We really play off each other very well with it. And I think these things that she just asked right there are really good. It beats talking about the latest political BS that's going on, because it gets very frustrating. To me,
BS is such a great word for it too.
I know
that's exactly what it is.
It is, because it always gets back to how are they screwing us, and how, what is the smoke screen they're creating? And it's so frustrating.
It really is.
Now it'd be a disservice to not talk about it. Complete disservice.
True.
But it's so frustrating.
Let me hey, we always like to talk about movies and different shows that we've seen.
You're gonna do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. So I'm giving you a cue here. Pull up your graphic.
Merle's movie and TV show reviews.
I love it when you do that. Well, I saw this show, and let me see if I could pull this up. Yeah, I was blown away by this. Now, it had to do with it was called Life of all these things are popping up. It was called Life of Crime, a shocking film about 3 decades of addiction and incarceration. This was a real downer, as a matter of fact, but I think I've told you on the show that at least out here, I know this is this world, our nationwide epidemic with opioids, of which that's what heroin is. It is an opioid.
And oxycodone, which is often how they get started on.
That's so true, right?
Yeah.
And it just leads right to it. Anyway, we had a real issue with that out here, in right around my neighborhood. And one of the things I might have told you, but did I tell you about the Q-tips?
Yes.
Okay.
That they're using them to filter through the
right
heroin, or I thought it was crack or something.
It was heroin. They how they get the syringe, and then they pull the heroin. They put the syringe in the Q-tip, and they pull the heroin through that Q-tip to filter it out, and then they inject it. And we've actually seen, Anne Marie and I have seen people just shooting up outside. It used to be this taboo thing, and now it's like smoking cigarettes or just doing heroin, and it's everywhere. Well, I saw this. It's a documentary. This thing was amazing, and it was really too bad. Let me just read a little bit of it. In 1984, the documentarian Joe Alpert began filming 3 petty criminals on the streets of Newark, New Jersey. With a camera hidden in his clothing, Alpert captured the 20-somethings' ingenuity and braggadocio. They mostly targeted retail stores with eager confidence and schemes as brazen as walking out with a box full of goods, as well as fraying seams of their lives, abusive relationships, arrest warrants, spiraling drug abuse. Alpert, part of the New York nonprofit Downtown Community Television Center, released his first installment on the group, 1 year in a Life of Crime, in 1989. And after all 3 had been incarcerated for armed robbery or drug offenses. Basically, this guy documented the life of these people over 36 years, starting in 1984. All of them they were incarcerated for armed robbery. He documented them in prison, but these people all had become heroin addicts. And it was this terrible, even that each of them got cleaned up while they were in prison, and then they were released, and then they tried to live their lives, and they were even going around trying to help their friends that were hooked on heroin.
And they fell back in.
They did, and it looked like they were good. It looked like they were doing well. But what ended up happening was that each of them just couldn't cope with life as like we are coping with life, and they just turned back to the drug. Well, one of the things is that after you haven't done it for so long, and then you go back to, you think you can do what you did before. These guys, all of them ended up overdosing,
chasing the dragon.
And one of them, the one that I thought was going to make it, he ended up, it seemed like it was such a cool story and everything, but it was just, he just took one slip up, and he OD'd in his home, and no one found him for several weeks. And when they found him, he was decomposing in his house and everything. It was so terrible. And then they filmed the funeral and everything. Well, this one, the one woman out of the group, she looked like she was not going to make it. Well, the two of these other guys died in the early 2000s, and he had lost track of this woman. But he ended up finding her, and she had kicked the habit, and she was going around and talking to people and getting up in front of groups. And her name was Dolores. And it was, if Dolores can do it, I can do it. Big groups of people just finding hope in her whole story.
Well, thank God it took that turn, because you were depressing the heck out of me there.
I hate to say this, but during the lockdowns, her support got shut down, and she went back to it, and she OD'd, and she died
I bet that's a big thing.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
And it's probably no worse, more worse than in California, with the density of the population, the amount of homeless, and the lockdowns. I think when we go back in history and we take a look at the effects of those lockdowns, the psychological effect, and we're just looking at one aspect of it, but I think the psychological effect is going to be the big thing that we're going to remember from this whole thing. Because look, I know that I'm a pretty strong character myself, but gosh, a lot of this has been so hard to deal with mentally. Jeez, man. Merle, I really think that we have to be careful about what we say. And I mean, I don't want to say that word. I'm going to just say the vid, and even like with the shot, I'm just going to call it the shot, because I don't want to call it, I don't want those flags, but so I'm going to use those terms now, so that I just saw a news report, I think it was yesterday, that now they're going to say that there is a shot for children under 5.
I heard
that. At that point, it rubs me the wrong way so bad. And it has to be the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. And, Biden is clearly in cahoots with that. The amount of support that he's always giving the pharmaceutical industry, and there's other treatments that we can't talk about. It's bothering me a whole lot right now, and I don't want to stay on that depressing subject too long, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the statistics are showing that these are the least vulnerable,
of course,
almost zero, unless there's comorbidities there. It doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. I did see what I thought was good news in the New York Times regarding this whole thing, but we do have some therapeutic treatments that are going to be coming out from the big pharma. So I can't. So
they'll be patent. They'll patent them so that they can make their trillions of dollars. Then it'll be okay, but you can't use ones that are been around for so long and out of patent.
The good, what we saw in Florida with the mono.
Be careful about that.
Yeah. Well, we saw, good stuff come out of that. And it looks like the pharma companies are going to be coming out with other alternatives here as well. And I say at least they're doing that. I think that's a positive, that there's not just one thing to do, that there are other things, that, because what the New York Times was talking about was that really this reduces this whole vid down to really the common cold or the flu.
All right, let's not talk about that anymore. Hey, how about this one? Dr. Oz joins crowded race for the Pennsylvania Senate seat. That as a Republican, and that Lisa and I talked about that briefly. We're surprised that. So he's had this show for 20 years or something, a daytime show where he's given. Now, women love him. Lisa talks about him all the time, and when she gets together with her mom or anybody, Dr. Oz says this, Dr. Oz says that. I don't know. I don't watch any daytime TV, but Lisa will record it and watch it on the weekends or whatever. And I've heard other doctors say that he's got these people writing his show for him and having him do these quick demonstrations of the newest this, that, or the other. And it's a bunch of quackery. That's what some other doctors say. So they don't like him. I tell Lisa this and she's like, that's why you get second opinions. Doctors hate each other because they all have a different opinion about everything. And if you put 5 doctors in a room, you're going to get 5 different opinions. So, okay, I get that too. But here's my point. Dr. Oz must be really ready to move on from that show, because coming out of the closet as a Republican, he's not going back to that. You know what I mean? That's in my opinion. It seems to me.
Now that's interesting, because last night because I had no idea this was happening. I looked it up and I actually listened to a podcast and everything about this. And
well, tell me, because I told you everything I know.
Yeah. So I heard at the end of the night, I heard that he had just made a change to the independent party, but I couldn't confirm that, but I did hear that. But anyhow, that's interesting. I listened to this podcast and these guys were talking about the fact that, hey, because of Trump, anybody that's got a show like that, a popular show like that, could actually run for a position like this, even president. It makes sense. And this Dr. Oz, I don't know a lot about Dr. Oz, but apparently he's a cardiothoracic surgeon. He's got real chops.
Does heart surgery.
Yeah, he's got real chops when it comes to what his background is, and
he's solid.
How good of a doctor he actually is, how smart the guy actually is. And person. He's a great communicator as well. The point they were making is, can you name any other person that is running for Senate in that position in Pennsylvania? Of course not. This guy's very popular nationwide. Everybody knows who he is. At least they've heard of him, right?
Yeah.
And he's a doctor. And I just think about, that's interesting, because I wonder, as we go into this new season, we got the Senate and Congress elections coming up here at the end of the year. Next year, and then we've got a new presidential election coming up. I wonder how much physicians will play a part in this new era of politics. And when you take a look at guys like Dr. Oz, he's got deep pockets. He himself is he's done pretty well for himself, and a lot of these guys. He's a heart surgeon. That's where the money is. When you look at hospitals, those are the guys. Those are the guys that are really making the money. And so they have a way and influence that they can use with their money. And if they can communicate well, we'll see what happens. Especially because of the politically charged environment around medicine these days. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Dr. Oz. Of course, I still got to do some more research. Apparently that's an empty seat in the Senate right now.
I think it is. I don't
know if they wait until the election in November of 22, or if that happens fairly quickly. I'm not really sure.
Let me just read this. And I'm reading it for the first time, but he's got a quote here, so it's kind of important. In a Washington Examiner opinion column announcing the run, Oz highlighted his medical experience as the undercurrent for his campaign launch, of course, while also indicating a policy focus on the ongoing national pandemic response. Quote, we have not, I'm thinking of Fauci right here. We've not managed, which is going to fire me up. We've not managed our crisis as effectively as past generations. During the pandemic, I learned that when you mix politics and medicine, Fauci, you get politics instead of solutions. And ain't that the truth? That's why I am running for the U.S. Senate, to help fix the problems and help us heal. He's got my vote, if I could vote for him.
Yeah, same.
And this is important, is dishonest as our politics have gotten. I think people, will really look to people like a Dr. Oz, who they really feel like they can trust instead of be bought off by the pharmaceutical industry. You just raised a good point. Let me ask you this, because I don't know the answer. I was surprised when Oz said that he was a Republican, because I immediately thought, right or wrong, I thought, I would think most physicians would be Democrats. What do you think?
I
I don't
think
know
the
where
same thing.
yeah, where did I come up with that? I don't know.
I you know, typically these guys aren't going to reveal that kind of information to anybody because of exactly what I think you're concerned about is that people are going to make a choice on the doctor that they have regarding their politics, which
Right.
I wouldn't want to put myself in that position. It actually makes me wonder why actors and actresses actually reveal their politics, because don't they run the risk of losing
Alienating.
half of their audience by
Right.
doing that? I would never do that if I were an actor or an actress.
But in Hollywood, they want to get the next job. And if you come out as a woke Democrat, then you're in the in crowd.
This is true. This is true. But it makes me wonder when it comes to these. I think you're right. Dr. Oz doing this may have destroyed his medical practice.
No, his TV or maybe
or television.
But television, I think.
Maybe it may be, but then again, if I think if I were in his position, using the independent card would probably be the wisest thing to do in his case.
I think so as well. And then I read, and I know nothing more than a headline that I read, so how true it is, I don't know. But I read a couple of headlines that Matthew McConaughey is pulled out of, or is not entering the race for governor of Texas.
What a surprise.
And what disappointment. Because this, again, to me, same theme. That's somebody you can trust. Who he's not going to. I think the pharmaceutical industry and the other lobbyists are pretty insidious in their methods of getting you to slowly get corrupted, like AOC, like getting her, oh, here's a $30,000 ticket and a dress. And now, go there, and she's taking the slow descent into corruption and not even knowing it, basically. I think they're that insidious, but I think it's disappointing that McConaughey is pulling out of the race. We need more people that we really feel we can trust. We really do.
And the thing is that I really hadn't followed McConaughey and really to find out what he stood for. When I'd seen him speak, I couldn't really tell exactly.
He's pretty much a classical liberal. Classical liberal. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Not woke, not Republican. He's from Austin. I think he represents Austin pretty well.
All I could say is that the guy is always cool. You know what I mean? Like, he's just a cool guy. It seems like a guy I would want to hang out with.
For sure.
I think when it comes to politics these days, it does. I hate to say it, but it's a popularity contest. It's more than even the person's politics. And I think going back to Dr. Oz, that gives him a tremendous advantage going into this whole thing because the man is extremely popular. Again, we know him, right? Or we at least think we know him.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. But the Democratic Party has done more damage to their brand than they know. And, appointing Kamala Harris as the VP candidate, they're trying to do damage control and put her and Buttigieg together, and they don't realize how unpopular they are. And Biden is a disaster. The complete administration, it's a disaster. So, and as I said in the last segment about these four different things: Biden spending Thanksgiving in his at the billionaire mansion, Pelosi officiating the lavish wedding of the Getty oil heiress, Obama's lavish birthday party with billionaires and celebs, and AOC's $30,000 gala. Do they not have people in their ears saying, hey, this is a bad look? Let's do some damage control. How about reaching out to a union, giving a speech or something, anything? No, they what the problem is? They know they're not held accountable by the mainstream media. I think that's the number one problem.
Well, it's interesting you say that because just today I'm seeing an article in the New York Times where they're quoting a pollster in the New York Times, Brian Stryker. That wasn't that hard to read. But he's saying about the Democratic Party, he's saying we have a problem. We've got a national branding problem. He's a Democratic pollster, by the way. We've got a national branding problem that's probably deeper than a lot of people suspect. Our party thinks maybe some things we're saying aren't cutting through, but I don't think much deeper than that. And here's another one saying, looks like calling everyone who disagrees with you racist is not an effective strategy for winning over voters.
They're finally figuring this out. How many years has this been?
And a poll out of Harvard finds Biden's approval among 18 to 29-year-olds has dropped 13 points and is now under 50%. Of course, his ratings have gone down tremendously. Biden's, overall, he's in the 40s right now. But I wanted to show this to you. Hopefully, I can get rid of these advertisements that are coming up here. Something I found interesting here was I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I don't need any sound, so I didn't click on it. This is something that the the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee came out with this graph showing they're saying, thanks, Joe Biden, U.S. regular all formulations gas price, and it's going down. But this is an article out of the Washington Post, so they're pretty liberal. They're criticizing this and saying, no, look at the graph here. Look, this is showing that it went from $3.40 overall down to $3.38 overall. So it went down 2 pennies, and then they put their own graph here and they're saying, no, this is really what's happened with gasoline since Joe Biden's been the president. It's gone up and up and up. But all they showed was this little square.
That is right so there. Funny. That's hilarious.
I love that. I love it.
That's hilarious. Talk about perspective.
But look, as you were saying, it's the mainstream media has been really protecting this administration. Well, look, I just quoted from the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Yeah.
And they're not saying good things.
Didn't CNN just get a new CEO?
Did they?
I think so.
It was Cuomo. Since we talked last,
well, sure.
They suspended him indefinitely.
Yeah, and boy, did they have to receive a lot of pressure before they went to that.
But why?
And even that's not
so long.
That's my point. Because again, I swear to God, they think that they fly above it all, that they really control information, and they don't control information the way they used to and the way they think they do. People have been departing that and can't get away from that crap fast enough, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. It's terrible what they've done, and boy, to me, they look like a bunch of clowns. I don't know.
They really do. It's been going on for so long, and I can't believe anybody watches it anymore. And I mean, the clown show that the Cuomo brothers put on, and it was with such arrogance 1 year ago. I think it was
really was. Yeah, I'm telling you, and that's one quality. Personality quality that really turns me off is arrogance, and gosh, they're just dripping with it over there. It's just dripping with it. It is really something.
So I do believe they got a new CEO and said that they need to change some things up, and I just think that whole culture is so far down the wrong road that all they could possibly do is I think all they could possibly tolerate is, okay, let's stop talking about Trump so much. And they couldn't do too much because they're so bought into the whole woke thing. I think America is finally getting turned off of the woke thing because of the awareness of CRT in the school system, probably for the most part.
Boy, do I ever hope you're right about that, because it seems to be a scourge on our nation here, and just this whole, especially when it comes to CRT. I know I say it all the time, but I'm such a believer in what Martin Luther King said, and the "I have a dream" speech is it's judging people by the content of their character, nothing else.
Right.
Skin color has no bearing on that. And really, when you're talking about that, here's something that came out over the Thanksgiving holiday: the Salvation Army. I've always been a fan of the Salvation Army. My Aunt Audrey had become a Christian as a result of the Salvation Army. Nothing but good things to say about them. But the Salvation Army wants white donors to offer sincere apology for their racism.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they've gone woke. Just from the article, the charity is asking white donors to do more than just drop some coins into the kettle when they go shopping this holiday season. Leaders of the army want whites to apologize for being racist. Here's a quote. The desire is that the Salvationists achieve the following, the army says in an online resource titled Let's Talk About Racism, listing several goals, including to, and this is a quote, lament, repent, and apologize for biases or racist ideologies held and actions committed. They're saying that the resource claims Christianity is inherently racist and what? And they're the Salvation Army and calls for white Christians to repent and offer a sincere apology to blacks for being antagonistic to black people or the culture, values, and interests of black community. And so it goes on to say, many have come to believe that we live in a post-racial society, but racism is very real for our brothers and sisters who are refused jobs and housing, denied basic rights, and brutalized and oppressed simply because of the color of their skin. There is an urgent need for Christians to evaluate racist attitudes and practices in light of our faith and to live faithfully in today's world. I'll just read one more part here and as we engage in conversations about race and racism, we must keep in mind that sincere repentance and apologies are necessary if we want to move towards racial reconciliation. I can't even read anymore.
I hear you.
This is just, are you kidding me? Now, I did hear that I got this article right around Thanksgiving. Oh, they go in to denigrate Thanksgiving as well in this whole thing from the Salvation Army. Thanksgiving is you thanking God, and here the salvation that comes from the Bible. These people were crusaders for Christ, but now they've become this woke thing. There's nothing biblical about what I just read right there.
No, not at all.
People, and you know what? I sure don't want anybody coming up to me because I'm black and offering some sincere apology for something they didn't even do. That's sick.
See, the problem with that is white guilt is so easy to prey on. Our generation and the baby boomers, Gen X and boomers, were raised on, we've talked about it before. We're watching Good Times and Archie Bunker and being forced to sit through Roots, where I still got PTSD to this day over that. So our guilt is on our sleeve. You know what I mean? I mean, we're compassionate as little kids because of those lessons that we learned from what happened in the past. So the white guilt is easy to manipulate. That's what's going on there. And but that's sickening that the Salvation Army would go down that road. It really
even is. The Salvation Army falls prey to this.
And of course, Christmas has been under war. There's been a war on Christmas for years now. Yeah. Jordan Peterson put it a good way, because for me, my family got away from church when I was still young. And so we weren't religious, but boy, Christmas to me always meant family, and it meant love. It meant being kinder. It was very important, like the most important time of year. It was a good thing. It filled my heart and my soul. And I think Jordan Peterson put it a good way. He goes, so you want to do away with Christmas? Fine. Then what are you left with? No Christmas. That's a good, think about it. That means a lot. That means something to me. You don't have to put a Christian spin on it or get offended. How about just make it a time for family, being kinder to your neighbor, and being more loving, trying to go into the next year? How about that? Because that's what it's meant for a whole lot of people for a whole long time.
Yeah, you're right.
And do away with it
too, by the way.
Yeah, do away with it. Then you simply don't have Christmas. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. Like, is that really going to make the world a better place?
Hell no, it won't. The whole thing, and we talk about it often enough, but I'm really almost obsessed with religion. I always have been. The whole push me pull me thing and the whole going through the stages of it's really great to be an atheist for a while because you, in my opinion, you feel above it all. You feel smarter than everybody else. And then you get to a point where, well, if you don't have faith in a higher power, then what it's like not having
There's an
Christmas.
emptiness. Yeah,
It's just like not having Christmas. It's like,
Right.
okay, you took that away. And so I hope you feel good about it, but now you don't have Christmas. And there is an emptiness there if you don't have the faith that needs to be filled with something. We talked about that before. And for a lot of people, it gets filled with their wokeness and their party.
That becomes their God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Going back to the earlier show, is you take all of that away, our human nature has to fill that with something.
Absolutely.
And what people that have power want to do is fill it with them. They desire to be worshipped. I mean, look at we talked about China, and it's such a great example of it. But we've seen other nations doing the same. North Korea, we saw the USSR do it. We saw Cuba do it.
Germany.
They always have, and it's interesting. It's in these nations, you always have like the leader and pictures of the leader everywhere, you know, and it seems it becomes like a religion.
And we talked about that, the book and movie 1984, where they really depicted that very well.
Yeah, it's
right.
very, very interesting. Very interesting. Hey, so have you seen any information on the Jussie Smollett trial that's going on?
I did see some. I can't help but laugh because that was the most pathetic crime ever committed. Absolutely pathetic. I heard somebody say he sat in the police department wearing that noose around his neck for a half hour before somebody saw him.
That's right.
I never thought, oh, maybe I should take this noose off. That is just the silliest thing. I saw something about those two brothers that he paid like $6,000 or $3,000 to. I don't remember what it was. The whole thing is so comical to me, but I can't. Why is it taking that trial so long?
Boy, the wheels of justice sure do move slowly here.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with Chicago in general. But the whole thing is just so crazy, especially when you think about, okay, so he supposedly gets attacked by these two guys that yell out racial things, and then they say
they're all black.
This is MAGA country, and then you see these two guys. They're Nigerians. These guys are very black people, and so why would they attack someone and yell racial stuff, and especially yell out, "This is MAGA country"? That doesn't make any sense. And anyway, so it was interesting to see the beginning of the trial because the prosecution was saying, "No, look, this guy, he faked this whole thing. He actually made it more dangerous for people that actually are victims of racial crimes like this." But then the defense came out and just completely characterized it as, no, this is the guy that has really been treated unfairly because he's gay, and these guys, they hate him because he's gay, and then this whole rush to judgment from the media because he's black and he's gay, and it's like, are you kidding me? We're supposed to believe that? I mean, seems like if you're black and you're gay, you get treated with extra special treatment here in our culture these days. But these guys, one of the brothers came up this week to testify, and he's saying that, look, we were paid. The reason I did it was just I felt like I owed it to Jussie. He got me a stand-in role on the Empire, and he paid us. They've got a videotape of them doing a dry run, and they've even got videotape of Smollett's walking into his apartment before he called the police, and he's got the noose hanging down lower on his chest, but then they've got pictures of him when the police came. Apparently he moved the noose closer and tightened it up so that they could see it. So
did he still have his Subway sandwich? That's what he went out for.
He went out to get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently he told these brothers to make it look like rough, but pull your punches. This does not look good for anybody.
Wow.
But I mean, what a mockery of, I mean, if it turn, and all this is alleged, right? But what if this turns out the way it looks like? What a mockery of the civil rights movement and really everything good that we're supposed to stand for here.
And unfortunately, it seemed obvious to people that we lived in a country that would just eat that up because it was Trump and it was anti-Trump and it was racial.
Yeah.
And
it was all the it's like,
and it worked for a day.
For about 2 days until all this started to fall apart. But you're right. I mean, throw all those ingredients in there and you should have, when's the book coming out, right?
There you go. And there will be a good movie on this someday. But we've seen it over and over again, like the kid that was supposedly mocking the Indian. Was that? The mega hat.
Yes.
And, that worked for a couple days too. And that's in the mainstream media at that time. That's all they needed. After it was refuted and, the truth comes out, they just don't show it. And most people don't care. They're already incited. But we saw that over and over again with so much stuff.
Well, and to the pollster talking to the New York Times, Stryker was saying that, hey, it doesn't look like this is working anymore.
And that's exactly
Thank God.
Right. It got so stupid. It got that stupid. But that political elite is scary. I mean, it's really scary. So all the way back to the subject of Dr. Oz, if we could get more people infiltrating the swamp and with more trustworthy people, that'd be great. But God, they have such insidious methods of corrupting seemingly incorruptible people. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I find hope in the fact that these things seem to be turning, and I hope that continues. I think in our society we see these types of pendulum swings back and forth. So
we're on the brink of destruction, literally. It starts to swing back.
The thing too seems like we have this whole pendulum kind of theory. I mean, we see it. It's not really a theory. We actually see it. But the thing I'm seeing is the pendulum seems to be going way to one side and way to the other side. And that's when, bad things happen. So, we just have to keep an eye on that or not keep an eye on it. Maybe it's better that we just let it be and maybe not focus on it so much, because we'd all be a lot more happy if we weren't.
It seems like with the China threat and it seems like time is of the essence, doesn't it?
Oh boy, does it ever. Does it
really
ever.
Does. And
I mean,
don't you wonder if maybe we, if there's one thing that I've learned over the last couple of years of doing this podcast, I've had to do so much research and so many different things. I've learned a lot.
Me too.
But one thing I've learned is that people are so in their bubble that if you want to talk about things like a critical race theory, well, you're going to find yourself into an algorithm where you're seeing a completely different thing than somebody that is in a woke crowd. You're going to see a whole different world of information online. And so I often wonder, and I try to look at information from both sides all the time, but I still wonder how I'm shaping my own perspective. And is it too bleak because I'm researching all this stuff about AI, about social media, about all these things that we talk about that I hope, I don't know. I hope I'm not making my own world too more bleak than it really is.
Well, I think there's a fine line there too, Barry, because the fact is that we inform ourselves. And one of my motivations is I want to inform myself so I won't be fooled.
Yes, agreed.
because there's so many sharks out there that are trying to fool us all the time. If we just go and do things all, naively, we can easily fall into a trap. But then we can get so bogged down in it that it's all consuming and it steals our joy, which happens to be, I mean, we only have this one life, right? And it's not a long life. I can't even believe that I'm the age that I am right now, because I'm still a kid, but according to my birth certificate, I'm not.
Right.
And at the end of the day, this goes back to Lisa's subject. I don't want to be on my deathbed regretting the fact that I could have had all of this joy. But then I focused on all of these things that were out of my control, and I went around feeling depressed all the time.
Very well put. And while you were saying that, I was kind of thinking, why don't you go into public office?
Here's what I was just thinking about, your comment, because you've mentioned this before, and it has everything to do with exactly what you just said, that I haven't done this at this point, is because what happens is you get around a whole mess of people that are just depressing as all get out, and just, jerks. And I love to surround myself with people that, in fact, I was saying this on the interview video that I did with
you did a great job.
And thank you. And I was saying, I love to surround myself with glasses half full people, the can do kind of people. And it seems like for instance, you look at Congress today, and man, 90% of those people I would not want to spend a half an hour with.
Well, it's very true. And you'd get eaten alive if you tried to run for office in California. Right. You really would.
And when I think about some of the things that I did and said in the past, and we talked about this on the last show, there was all this transparency. Oh, I don't know if I want all that transparency. If you just go back 5 years, maybe we could just look at that. Anyway, I'm sure I said some stupid things that people might remember,
by today's standards only.
Yeah, exactly.
You've led a very virtuous life. So, but you put it through today's filters, and you could turn it into a funhouse mirror.
Well, and as a Christian, I find that Christianity, just like Christianity is under attack, and so
of course
they can take a look at a lot of things in Christianity. I mean, my views on how people should be treated and what's right and wrong can sometimes lead people to make conclusions that aren't necessarily true, and really make me out to be a person that I'm not. Or they could just use AI and get a ghost Merle out there to say some crazy stuff. Who knows? But I think I only have this one life, and I want it. I think my dad said it very well, is that everybody's looking for the same thing, and that's peace of mind. And I think that goes right to the heart of a lot of things that we've been talking about today. At the end of the day, at the end of my life, I want to be able to go out with a smile on my face, and I thought about that on Thanksgiving Day. I had such a great day with the family, and just the conversations and all the love and everything. And we had such a great meal, Anne Marie and we had the kids over, and we had Tracy over. My ex-wife was over, and we had such a wonderful time together. And I went to bed that night, because at one point we were thinking about not even having Thanksgiving, just because of the financial situation and everything like that. But we avoided that, and boy, I went to bed with just a big smile on my face. And that's really how I want my life to be. And I don't know. That's those are the things I think about.
And that's why it's important to have things like Thanksgiving and Christmas, so that we have these reminders of gratitude. I also think it's a great thing that people go to church once a week. Now, I don't, but there's the danger. I really got to get going, but there's the balance that has to be had. As soon as you got a human being up there on a stage telling you what to do and think, be careful. There's a good chance you're going to get manipulated right out of your shorts. But The other
let
hand
me just,
is, I
yeah,
got to
go
say, but on the other hand, when you got a good person up there and you're in a room full of people, like-minded people for the same, to be better for that week, that reminder, once a week, you come back and realign yourself to goodness. And then you slowly taper down as the week goes on, but you come back again and realign yourself. I think that's powerful. I think
I
that's
do too.
super powerful.
I agree with you. And I, when you talk about the good person up there, what I hope is that as we evaluate whether it's a good person or not, that they're not pointing at themselves, but pointing to God, because we are all fallible people. None of us can look at our lives and say, "Oh, he lived a perfect life." No, nobody does. And so if it's all about God and not about the person, that the person is steering them to God, I think that's really the thing to do.
Agreed.
That's what I found when it comes to church.
Yeah, I just think that the Christian churches should kind of put at the forefront because they lost all the trust with, between so-called science and the scandals with all the priests, all the way up through the Vatican. They just killed all trust right there. They need to come out and earn the trust and say that never trust a human being. Don't trust yourself. When you get into power, meaning you got your own congregation, you are now being susceptible to corruption, and we're all fallible. I want you to know that. I want me to know that. And now let's move forward and keep it about God and not about things and stuff. And
really well said, Barry. Amen.
Well, dude, I think that we need that. I think that we need to build that trust back. Yep. I think that Christianity, or I think that religion, I'm going to say, is really needed. I really do. I
especially now.
I don't know how
in this dark time.
Yeah. And it gives us a guiding light.
Yes.
I don't know how to categorize myself. Maybe it's called agnostic or spiritual or whatever, but I feel the connection. I feel it. Whatever this consciousness is, I think this brain in here is only a conduit to giving me a little bit of God here,
Yes. And it's interesting how you're describing it too, because I feel like my brain is one thing, but my heart is really where God is. Yeah. And sometimes my brain gets in the way of
Isn't that funny?
My heart. Yes.
And I don't know how to find that right balance, right? But I totally agree with you. Boy, there's a great conversation to continue on to another podcast.
I know we're wrapping up here, but I wanted to just say that I would love to continue our conversation. And we've done this throughout of, man and machine and computers and how we talk. But I really, that whole head and heart thing, I always see that
putting that in the notes
computer
right now.
part as more of the brain thing and minus the heart thing. And that's where I see trouble happening, is that because God is in your heart, and that's where real goodness can reside. But anyway, we could open up a whole show on that whole thing.
Yeah,
it's
I got it in the notes.
Stimulating, Barry. I love talking about this stuff with you. And I gotta say, I feel that as you're talking you're talking about this thing that's inside of you. I feel that in you. So I know that you have that in you.
For sure. I find it just an amazing quagmire of mystery that I love talking about, because I get more stronger spiritually the more we talk about it. And I think everybody needs that right now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, let's end on this note.
I hate to end. I really do.
This has been outstanding, Barry.
Been a great one. All right, buddy. I love you, man. I hope you have a great weekend.
All right. You too. Bye.